Alright guys, so the last part of Unit 4, which would be Module 4.7, and in this one we're going to talk about absolute value and distance on a coordinate plane. So if you look at our learning target, I can use coordinates and absolute value to find the distance between points with the same x or the same y coordinates. Now, our vocabulary in this, we have absolute value, coordinate plane and quadrant, and of course we're going to talk about horizontal or vertical distance. All right, so let's start with horizontal. Okay, horizontal, that means the distance is going from here to here. That means what? That the y coordinate is going to be the same because it's moving horizontally. It's moving this way. All right, so that's horizontal. Vertical would be up and down. Right? So because we're moving horizontally, I know that my y coordinate is going to be the same, just like I had taught you in the lesson before this one. All right? And so we've got to see like what happens when I have ordered pairs that are in the same quadrant or when they're in different quadrants. So I've just given you the same quadrant points over there. So let's quickly talk about this and what happens to the distance, okay? So if I plot -5 and -4, so I know that negative, negative are both going to fall in quadrant 3, which is down here, okay? So if I am going to plot -5, -4, here's -5, okay, here we go, and here is -4. Okay, so this is -5, -4, and then my other ordered pair is -1, -4. So -1 and -4. Okay, -1 and -4. So now what I'm trying to see is what is the distance between these two ordered pairs, and both of them are falling in the same quadrant, as you can see. All right, so when 2 points are in the same quadrant and they have the same y coordinate, then all I'm going to do is subtract the absolute values of the x coordinates to find the distance between the 2 points. So if I'm looking at this, look, the y coordinates are the same. I'm going to subtract the values of the x coordinates if they are in the same quadrant. So let's look at this. What is the absolute value of -1? Okay, I'm going to write it over here. So absolute value of -1, that is the distance of a number from 0 on the number line, is what absolute value is. What's the absolute value of -1? It is 1. Okay, what is the absolute value of -5? I'm looking at the x coordinates now because the y is the same. All right, and we are going horizontally, right? So absolute value of -5 is going to be 5. And then what we do over here, because they are in the same quadrants, you subtract the absolute values. Subtract the absolute values. Okay? And as you can see that we are taking the x coordinates in this case. All right, because it's going horizontally. And what are the absolute values here? We have 5 minus 1. So you can see that the distance between the 2 points is 4 units. Okay, 4 units. So if you look at this, this is 4 units. All right, so if you count from here, actually, if you think of it, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's basically what that is. So when they are in the same quadrant and you're trying to look at it horizontally, we know that the y is going to stay the same. And so you just take the absolute values of the x coordinate and you subtract the 2, and that'll give you the distance between those 2 points. All right, so this is when they are in the same quadrant. Okay, let's look at what happens when they are going to be in different quadrants. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. So this is for the same quadrant. Now let's look at the different quadrants, and I'm going to use a red color so that you can see the different quadrants, okay? So once again, this was when it was in the same quadrant, okay? For different, we have negative 4, 2. Okay, so we have negative 4, 2. So that would be negative 4 here and 2 is here. Okay, we have negative 4, 2 and we have 1, 2. So we have 1, 2. All right, so we are trying to see what is this distance. What is this distance? All right, now because they are in two different quadrants, we are going to look at this. We can see that they have the same y coordinate. All right, and we are going to take the absolute values over here of the x coordinates and we are going to add it. So in the same quadrant, what we do, we subtracted the absolute values. In different coordinates, in different quadrants, we are going to add the absolute value because this much plus this much is going to give me that total distance between those two. All right. So if I'm looking at negative 4, 2 and 1, 2, okay, this was negative 4, 2 and this is 1, 2, I can see that the y is the same. All right, and I should have plotted this a little bit higher and that's okay. All right, so y is the same but x is different, right? So I'm going to look at the absolute value of negative 4. What is the absolute value of negative 4? Is 4. Absolute value of 1 is how much? Is 1. And then all I do is I add the two absolute values because they are in different quadrants and I get 5. So therefore, this distance between the two is 5 units. Okay, so that's the most important thing to remember is when they're in the same quadrant, you subtract the absolute values. When they are in different quadrants, you add the absolute values. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an example. And okay, so let's say u, which is an one of the ordered pairs. This is going to be 1/2. And we have negative 1, 1/2. All right. And then we have another point which is V. And this is going to be 2 and negative 1, 1/2. All right. So as we can see in this case, what's going on? That both the y, the coordinates are the same. That means it is going horizontally. Y stays the same, but x is switching. However, we can also see that they are in the same quadrant, both of them. All right. So let's look at this one. We have 1/2 and negative 1, 1/2. So if this is 1, I know that 1/2 is going to be here. There we go. All right. So this is my 1/2 and negative 1, 1/2, and this is my 2 and this is negative 1, 1/2. So now we are trying to find that what is this distance? What is this distance? All right. So first thing what we're going to do is that we are going to, all right, so as we can see that the y coordinates are the same, both of these. So we're going to find the absolute value of each x coordinate because they are in the same quadrant over here, okay? So if I look at this, what is the absolute value of 1/2, okay? Absolute value of 1/2 is 1/2. What is the absolute value of 2? Because the absolute value of 2 is going to be 2. All right, and then all that I'm going to do now is I'm going to subtract the two absolute values to find the distance between the 2 points. So I'll do 2 minus 1/2 and I get 1 and 1/2. So these are 1 and 1/2 units apart, and that is what the distance is between these 2 points. Okay, because they are in the same quadrant and we are finding the horizontal distance. Now, let's talk about vertical distance. Wait 1 minute. Let's quickly do another problem where we're finding horizontal distance in different quadrants. So let's say I give you 2 points. I'm talking about different quadrants now. Okay, and I give you 2 points, 2 ordered pairs, and if I give you negative 7500, negative 7500, and I give you negative 2500, all right, this is my first ordered pair. Let's call this E, all right, and my second ordered pair is F, and I'm going to have 2500 and negative 2500. All right, now we are finding the horizontal distance. As you can see that the y coordinates are the same, so therefore this is actually reflecting across the y-axis, so it's a horizontal distance that we are finding over here. Not reflecting, sorry. It is going on the horizontal format, okay? So that is why we are going to be finding the absolute values of the x, and then because they are in different quadrants, because this is negative negative and this is positive negative. So what we're going to do is I just look at my first one, negative 7500, and I have negative 2500. Now I can make my intervals bigger to show you, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the same thing. So negative 7500 would be negative 3/4, which is somewhere here, right? And then negative 2500 would be somewhere here. So this is my point. And then the other one is positive, that is 2500 would be somewhere here, a quarter. And then negative 2500 would be here. So we are trying to find this distance over here. And for me to do that because I know that the y coordinate is the same, I'm just going to find the absolute values of the x coordinate, and you can see that they are in 2 different quadrants, and then we're just going to add it. So what is the absolute value of negative 7500? I get 7500. What is the absolute value of 2500? It is 2500. And then all I do, because they are in different quadrants, one is in quadrant 3, one is in quadrant 4, and so I just add the absolute values. 5 plus 5, 10, and 1, 7 plus 2, 9 plus 1 is 10. All right, so therefore what is this? This is 1. The distance between these 2 ordered pairs is 1 unit. So the distance between points U and V are 1. They are 1 unit apart. Okay, now let's quickly talk about vertical distance now. So we've done horizontal. Now vertical means up down. That means we are going across the x-axis, or it might be on the same quadrant. We're not going across the x-axis in that case. All right, but we are moving up and down because that is what vertical distance means. Okay, so let's discuss vertical now. Vertical distance. Once again, horizontal goes from left to right. Okay, and vertical is going to go up, down. All right, that's the distance. So when 2 points are in the same quadrant, but most important, you can find vertical distance between 2 points on the coordinate plane with the same x coordinate. And so the x is not changing. The y is what is making it change. All right, the y is changing, not the x. All right, so let's look at this. And so when 2 points are in the same quadrant, they have the same x coordinate. We are going to subtract the absolute values of the y coordinates to find the distance between the 2 points. So let's say I have 3, -1, all right, and I have 3, -5, and I have 3, -5. So let's look at this one. We have 3, -1, which is here, okay, and we have 3, -5, which is here. So this is 3, -1, and this is 3, -5. So look, the x is going to be the same. That's why it's going vertically. But the y is what is different. So now in this case, what are we going to do? We are going to find the absolute values of each y coordinate. And so what is the absolute value of -1? Is going to be 1. What is the absolute value of -5? Is going to be 5. Since they are in the same quadrant, we are going to subtract the two absolute values. And what is 5 minus 1? And I get 4 units. 4 units apart. Okay, so the distance from here to here is 4 units apart. All right, now if they are in different quadrants, we are going to add the absolute value. So let's consider the points 2, 1. And I'm going to use a different color for that. Let's say I have 2, 1. Okay, and I have 2, -4, and I have 2, -4. We're still talking about vertical distance, but now we're talking about in different quadrants. So if I have 2, 1, this is 2 and this is 1. All right, and then I have 2 and then here is -4. So we are trying to see what is this distance. Okay, in order to find that distance, we know that the x coordinate is the same. So we are just going to go and look at the absolute values of the y coordinate. So look, the x is the same. So what is the absolute value of the y coordinate, which is 1, is going to be 1. What's the absolute value of -4? That is 4. So now all that we do, because they are in different quadrants, we are going to add the absolute values, and 1 plus 4, and that gives me 5, and that is the distance over here, which is 5 units, distance between those 2 points. All right, so let's do problem vertical distance in the same quadrant. So now I'm just going to calculate straight up, all right, in the same quadrant. So if I have something given to me which is telling me that my values are, let's say D is going to be -1 and -1/2, all right, that is 1 point, and C is -1 and -2, -1 and -2. All right, now when I look at this, when I have negative, negative and negative, negative, that means both of them with the negative sign, that means it is going to fall in quadrant 3, because in quadrant 3 I have the negative, negative. All right, now I can see that x-axis is the same. So therefore this is going vertically, and all I'm going to do now is look at the y coordinates, and I'm going to find the absolute value. What is the absolute value of -1/2? Absolute value of -1/2 is going to be 1/2. What is the absolute value of -2? Is going to give me 2. All right. Now, since they are in the same quadrant, they would all be over here, right? All I do, because it's in the same quadrant, I subtract the absolute values. So, what is 2 minus 1/2? And I get 1 and 1/2 units apart. And that's what my distance is going to be between that. Okay, between C and D. Let's do one last problem, finding vertical distance in different quadrants. So let's say I have, and again we're doing vertical distance right now. So I'm just going to write it out over here. I don't even need my coordinate graph made over here, as long as I can just identify what absolute values I need to find. So if I have 1 and 5/10 as my first ordered pair, okay, let's say this is S, and T is going to be 1 and -5/10. Okay, so I can look at this, positive, positive, I know is going to be in quadrant 1. And then I have positive, negative. So that's going to be in quadrant 4. So I can already see that it is going in 2 different quadrants over here. All right. So since my x values are the same, it's a vertical distance. And then I'm just going to find the absolute values of the y coordinate. So what is the absolute value of 5/10? Is 5/10. What is the absolute value of negative 5/10? Is also going to be 5/10. Okay, and then because they are in different quadrants, I'm going to add them up, and if I take 5/10 and 5/10, what do I get? I get 1. So these two S and T are 1 unit apart, and that is what the distance is between them. All right, and that's basically what the lesson is about, absolute value and distance. Please remember that if it is in the same quadrant, all you need to do is subtract the absolute values, whether it is vertical or horizontal. Then, based on that, you'll be looking at which coordinate to look at. And then if it's in different quadrants, we are going to add the absolute values in order to find the distance on a coordinate plane. All right, guys, have a great day. And that concludes our Unit 4.